Welcome back to Line Drop, the bracket, the ultimate look at the bracket reveal show. I'm joined in studio by DraftKings Julian Edlow, VSiN's Josh Applebaum. You're going to hear from these guys, plus here's some of what's coming up in the next hour. We're going to check in live from Las Vegas with our friends at VSiN, the sports betting network, the original broadcast network offering 24/7 expert sports betting coverage, and Johnny Avello, director of race and sportsbook operations for DraftKings. We're going to head down to Austin, Texas, where Dan Batard and friends are broadcasting live from South by Southwest. Plus, we'll check in with DraftKings customer and sports bettor Frank Cravello as he continues to place bets on this year's bracket. But right now, we're going to head back to Las Vegas with VSiN's Amal Shah as he's joined by DraftKings Director of Race and Sportsbook, Johnny Avello.
Jessie, thank you so much. I'm here with Johnny Avello, obviously head of trading here at DraftKings. Johnny, what a wild last hour it's been. First of all, how do you guys take it all in, put the lines out, and then you got bets coming in at the same time?
Yeah, it's hectic, but they love it. Look at these guys. I mean, they're eating it up. It's what they live for. They've been preparing for it all week long.
Well, you're an experienced veteran. You've been through this for many, many years. But what's one of the first things that you've seen or you've noticed so far since the brackets have come out? Have you guys taken some extremely large bets in certain positions already?
Yeah, we have. There were probably $4 or $5 $50,000 bets. With a lot of other bets coming in from all over the country. But then this last one we took was a $100,000 bet on Murray State. That game opened up a pick'em against Yale. We went to one Murray State. Of course, on 100, you might as well move it a point, right, Mel?
Yeah, exactly right. Some of these line moves, I know you haven't had a chance to look at all the games and everything, but do you anticipate certain moves just based on either a name, basically like a Kentucky type of brand, or what type of moves do you see early on in the first day or so? Is it just simply based on professional bettors?
Yeah, professional bettors are looking at the dogs a lot in these games, as they should.
Yeah.
You know, and remember, Amal, putting these numbers up maybe 10 years ago, you'd see all these first-round games, the ones be at least 25 to 30, the twos probably be down and around the 19 to 22. And look at these numbers; they're not anywhere near that, except for a couple of games, of course.
You bring up a great point. I think that gets overlooked. If you go back to the 90s, you would see lines with a 116, 25, 27, 28. You don't see that anymore. It's completely skewed. You see the teams that are smaller, mid-majors, have so much experience with their players, and it's really changed the dynamic of it. I want to go to the East region real quick. We know the number 1 seed there is Baylor. Number 2 seed is Kentucky. The number 3 is Purdue. The number 4 is UCLA. This is a pretty intriguing matchup here. You got UCLA team that went to the Final Four last year, played a heck of a game against Gonzaga. Baylor's had a terrific season dealing with some injuries. Kentucky's a team I'm a little bit surprised personally. They fell off the one line. I thought they've had a tremendous season. Oscar Tshiebwe's probably going to be the National Player of the Year. And then Purdue, I mean, how do you see this one? This could be very competitive.
Yeah, Kentucky, you know, once they started talking about Kentucky being the number 1 seed, they blow the game.
Right.
Purdue's played very well, you know, pretty much all year long. They've had a solid season. Their rankings are not, power ratings are not as high as you might think. I mean, they're up there, but you know, a lot of people would think Purdue maybe is, you know, according to my ratings, they're in the high 80s instead of low 90s.
Johnny, I'm a big fan of in-live betting, and I think if you're kind of new to the betting space, you want to really get involved in in-live betting. There's so many great opportunities there. From an NCAA tournament perspective, for people that are a little bit new to this, what is maybe something they should take away or kind of learn? Because we have an original line. Let's say you have a matchup. Baylor's playing a 16 seed. They're going to be a 20-point favorite. I'm just throwing out a random number. I don't even know what the number is on it. But you see the lines consistently adjusting for people that are unfamiliar with it. Just kind of give them a brief overview of what it's like, because we'll have so many people coming into Las Vegas or other parts of the country and states where you guys are located. They're going to be taking action that they may be unfamiliar with in play.
Well, if you're going to bet in play, you need to do it on an app, because if you try to do it over the counter, you're probably going to miss out on the bet, because there's going to be lines of people, so you definitely have to have the app to do it. Now, you don't want to bet a team because they're too high. You think they're too high to start the game. So wait till the game starts and they fall behind 8-4, and you'll only lay 17.5 instead of 20. So there is some value out there on some of those if you wait. Now, if the team jumps out to a big lead, forget about that game. Go on to the next.
You're absolutely right. Some great advice to heed, really, as you come out, whether it's in Las Vegas or other parts of the country, and you're looking to make in-play wagering. Should be a ton of fun. Futures bet. I understand you took a big bet on Kansas early on to win the national title. For fans now, they'll be able to wager this up until Tuesday, or is that until Thursday when the tournament starts?
Futures?
Yeah.
I don't know. The team's been keeping the futures up while the games are going on.
Oh, great. Okay.
So and just watching it, and they've been doing that all season long. So I anticipate we're going to do the same.
Yeah, great opportunity. If you like a team out there and you like the odds on them to win the national championship, good opportunities are going to be available to you. You've done this for a long time. What's probably the biggest thing you look forward to, whether it be Thursday, Friday? Is this as good as the Super Bowl for you?
Well, I'll remember that being from a bricks and mortar location, I'm always down on the floor with the spectators and the bettors. I'm not going to be doing that, but it's still going to be just as exciting.
Can't wait. Hey, Jesse, this is live from here at the DraftKings studio with obviously Mr. Johnny Avello. They're going crazy here. 45 traders on the floor. We don't even have enough traders right now working. They need so many people. It's so busy right now. But back to you in Boston, and I know you guys are going to break this thing down. It's going to be a lot of fun today.
It's literally madness there, but you guys look like you're having a lot of fun. We love that. I am joined here again in our Boston DraftKings studio. We have DraftKings contributor Julian Edlow. We have VSiN's Josh Applebaum. So, Julian, let's start with you. What's just like your biggest takeaway so far from Selection Sunday here? Anything about the madness just really sticking out to you?
Yeah, I'm finally, pulled up here with a full bracket in front of me, and it feels like you can catch up a little bit. I don't want to say too much recency bias, but Arizona was a team that I maybe wasn't fully bought in on, as late as last night. And it looked like UCLA had a pretty healthy lead on them, and they come back without their starting point guard and win that game and, get a 1 seed as they were predicted to. But I kind of like their path as you look at it. You go to the 2 seed there, Villanova, a really good team. I like that Villanova is a really good free throw shooting team. That's great to have in March Madness, but I don't know if they're necessarily equipped to match up athletically with an Arizona team, looking all the way to that potential Elite 8 matchup. Tennessee been playing really good defense to win that SEC tournament, but I don't know if they can keep up with a team like Arizona if they got them. I'm looking through this bracket, and 4 Illinois is live to lose to Chattanooga in my mind in a 4-13. I don't know if there's anybody in Arizona's bracket that can beat them. So everybody's going to talk about Gonzaga to the Final Four. I think that Arizona has just about as good a chance as anyone to punch their Final Four ticket.
Yeah, Josh, what do you think when you're looking at the full bracket finally?
So first off, Julian's totally right. I'm looking for a bracket that just filled out. It's 2022. How is this not on Twitter immediately here? But again, as bettors, we got to do a little bit of work. I'll just kind of echo what we've been saying the whole program here. So for example, Virginia Tech, that's one that I keep going back to. They're the 11 seed versus the 6 seed, and they're only getting +1. And again, looking at viewing, my one recommendation would be to bettors, don't fall in love with the seedings. Let the betting lines really be the great equalizer here, because the seedings are based on the committee and how they select these games. It's almost like the AP poll in different college sports. It's an inexact science. The betting market is much more efficient. So again, if you're looking for upsets, look at the betting numbers, and really if you're going to go seeds or betting numbers, to me the betting numbers are way more important than the seedings are.
All right, Josh, let's get specific. Talk to me about the East. What do you think is the most interesting game coming out of this region?
Yeah, so just looking at it now, a couple of these. Number 1, I'd probably lean on maybe that North Carolina-Marquette matchup there, that 8-9. I think North Carolina is going to be just kind of you get to this time of year, there are certain teams the public loves to bet on. This is, to me, as a contrarian bettor, what I want to go against. The UNCs, the Dukes, the Kentuckys. You see the color, you see the uniform. You have memories of these, these big wins here. The public will kind of overvalue that, so maybe Marquette in a 9-8 matchup, could be worth a look. And then again, San Fran, Murray State. San Fran is only getting, I think, 1 point in that game, or it's even a pick 'em at some shops. I look towards San Fran. To me, I lean on these smaller name schools that really have a line movement in their favor. That's what I look for.
Yeah, Jules, what do you think? What are you looking at the East region?
Yeah, looking at the East region, and Josh is going game by game, so I'll kind of just go a little bit more bigger picture like I did with Arizona. Kentucky jumps out to me here, and Kentucky was a team that I kind of went into this maybe with a little bit of a preconceived notion that I really liked them to make a run. But I'm looking at it right now, they're in Baylor's bracket, but Baylor is a team that kind of slowed down towards the end, has been dealing with some injuries. They're beatable, and Kentucky, when healthy, I know they laid an egg against Tennessee, but they're a team that I think can compete with anyone. I was kind of hoping that they would maybe be in Gonzaga's bracket, and you just kind of take a shot with them as an underdog, a trendy underdog against the Zags. They're not there. I'm really curious if we do get chalk in this bracket, what a Kentucky-Baylor line would look like. But just looking through, Purdue's got the talent to get there, but I don't know about some of these Big Ten teams. We want to fade them. A lot of people are saying that. Frank told us that earlier in the show as well. I really like the path for Kentucky here in the East overall. So as those Final Four futures, Elite 8 futures start to pop up on DK Sportsbook, Kentucky's a team that I got circled there.
All right, Josh, any teams, when you're looking at your full bracket here, that you think got snubbed, that didn't get in?
Oh man, there's probably a long list of them. I was surprised Rutgers got in. That was a team that we were kind of thinking was on the bubble there. Just one thing in terms of looking at kind of the South region. Go there real quick. Arizona. I think if you want to differentiate yourself and win your bracket, you need to pick a team other than Gonzaga because everyone's going to be betting Gonzaga. And if Gonzaga wins, you're going to tip your cap to everyone who's going to cash big here. To me, Arizona, they're your second-rated team based on Ken Pom, and they have a pretty good South region compared to these other ones. I think Arizona kind of has a cakewalk, at least probably till the Sweet 16.
Yeah, Julian, any bubble teams you think got the snub here?
I'm gonna be honest. Like as we're doing this, I didn't even have time to think of snubs. So I literally just looked up snubs. We got SMU here.
Said.
We got Texas A&M who just played really well. Oklahoma just got a win over Baylor. Dayton. I'm an A10 guy. I thought Dayton was fantastic, but they weren't gonna get 2 teams in after this. Texas A&M, I'm gonna say because they went all the way to the SEC final. Obviously didn't do well against Tennessee, but I think people thought maybe they could get in and maybe be something like if they had won this game over Tennessee, they'd be kind of like an Oregon State last year that goes through that tournament and then makes a run. I kind of had my eyes on them doing that, and now they don't even get in. So Texas A&M is a team in there, and then Oklahoma. I'm surprised that Oklahoma's not in the field. I guess I'm glad to see Xavier's not in the field. I think that was a hot topic, and they didn't get in. So cool.
All right, good stuff. Now we got some teams we thought were snubbed. Good stuff. Well, we've all been a spot where you think you've got a good bet, only to find out that you definitely didn't. Here to share one of his worst NCAA tournament bets to date is Stu Gotts. Take a listen.
I don't know my exact record betting the brackets. I just know it's really, really good. Like, really good. I do know this, okay? I started a college football bowl season going 0 for 16. It might have been 0 for 17. I might have lost my first 18 bowl games. I think it was 18. 0 and 18. But that was college bowl season. This is betting the brackets. This is March Madness, okay? And I am pretty certain, I don't have the exact record, but it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 224-1. But the one loss, was it a bad beat? 2006, I believe it was 2006, round of 64. First round, 13 versus a 4. Pacific taking on Boston College. The Eagles. How about that? Solid guard play. Anyway, 13 versus a 4. Boston College is favored by 8. Pacific looks like they're going to win the game the entire time. And then they're trailing by 3 in regulation. And they take a 3-pointer. And I am praying it doesn't go in. Because if they miss, I'm good. I've covered the, +8. And I win some money and I'm happy. I like a good upset, but I like money a lot more. Quiche, you know what I'm saying? And so, but here's what happened. They didn't miss the 3. They made the 3. They went to overtime. They got out to a big lead in overtime, and then BC fought back and tied it up, and they went to a second overtime. And what happened? You know what happened. BC covered. I believe they won the game by 12 points. Pacific had 19,000 times they could have covered that spread or won the game, and they didn't. And BC, in double overtime, at the very end, they win the game. It was crushing. So crushing that I remember it in that great a detail 16 years later. That's how crushing it was. Crushed my soul. I'll never forget it. I will never forget that game. Oh, was I so mad at Pacific. Not at Boston College. Pacific choked. Anyway, that's the one loss I've had. So it's the only experience I've ever had losing betting on the brackets. And so I've never told that story before. And so congratulations for being the first ones to hear it. Okay? Double overtime. I mean, seriously, go to hell.
Well, stories like that make us all feel better. All right, guys, here's some good advice. Can confirm. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. And new customers can bet $5 on any college hoops team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do. Download the app now and sign up with promo code SUNDAY. Now let's bring in DraftKings customer and sports bettor Frank Cravello. Frank, now that you've seen the full bracket, talk to us. What is your favorite bet that you've placed?
So far, Colgate in the 13 position at +9 is by far the best bet on my ticket. So it's a veteran team. Their entire squad, their entire starting squad, averages double digits. I said earlier in the show, I'm fading the Big Ten. They're playing a Wisconsin team that got into the tournament because they're Wisconsin. So I'm really excited about that +9, but more so when the money line comes up, because I think a +320, +340 is a solid bet.
Yeah, so Frank, I had a question for you. It's great to pick your brain here, but we're looking at obviously the sides right now. The totals haven't been released. We're waiting on those numbers. When you're capping these games, is it because, hey, we're just going to go off the numbers that we have? How do you compare basically tournament time spreads versus totals? How you kind of look at that edge and kind of differentiate the bet types there?
So I'm doing quick fire bets right now. So typically my bet size, like I mentioned, is typically in the hundreds of thousands, and I'm just firing out 25 and 50K bets. So I'm going to do more analysis a little bit later on, but just off the cuff, I picked about 5 or 6 games that stuck out to me. So the sentiment has been fishy bets. Example, like a South Dakota State that's a 1.5 dog against Providence, who played extremely well in the Big East this year. That's a fishy one. I was high in South Dakota State, but a +1, it's making me lean toward just putting a little feeler bet out there with 50,000.
All right, Frank, how about like the best, maybe the bet that maybe you're the least confident in? Like you just did a flyer on one and maybe you're like, I'm not sure if that was great.
Yeah, it's Gonzaga. I took Gonzaga minus the 26.5. To be honest with you, I forgot who they were playing, but it stood out to me. I forgot their opponent.
Georgia State.
But, I saw that it got bet down to 25. So I'm not feeling too confident about that. But it's Gonzaga. They have the 2 big guys, so we'll see. They can very well come out and just smash, I forgot who they're playing, by 40, 45 points.
Hey, Frank, I want to get your take really quick because I know you just talked about the Providence South Dakota State game, and I know before that one came out, when we saw the bracket, that was one that you went towards. What type of number were you maybe expecting that to be? Because I think it's shorter than we all thought, and it got bet down immediately to 1.5. I think it's now up to 2 on DK Sportsbook. What were you expecting there, and does it kind of change your mind when you see, I know South Dakota State was going to be the sharp side there, but now is it almost too sharp, and a Providence team that's been winning games all year in the Big East becomes the right side of it?
Assumption was about 5.5.
Right.
That's where I assumed the line was going to come out, but I don't know if just based off of just the last few years or just the NCAA trend, where essentially you get these dog teams that are covering the spreads. Like example, like the 5-12, 13-4. I'm assuming they're better favorites. So maybe Vegas is thinking about reducing the line just to get equal action on both sides. That was my take of a 2.5, but full anticipation when I saw South Dakota and Providence, I was thinking +5.5, jumping on that 5.5 and probably getting 2 to +220 on the money line.
All right, what about the biggest upset pick for you, Frank, so far?
Colgate. I've said it a number of times. Fade the Big Ten. Colgate, they're a phenomenal squad. They're playing in an unknown conference, so therefore they don't have any type of media coverage or recognition. But they're going to come in. This is a team that truly can make it to the Sweet 16. So once again, I'm on the plus side, the +9. I love that bet, but once again, money line on that thing.
Frank, another quick one before we go to break. You're giving us a lot of your pre-flop bets. Are you a live better guy? Like, are you going to wait on some of these and say, hey, maybe I don't love this pre-flop number, but I'm going to get interested in, in some in-game wagering here?
Some have told me that I bet the most on DraftKings on the live play. So yes, I'm I bet very, very large on during live play. So tournament time, I like getting my like I said, my $50,000 to $250,000 bets in there, but I will fire some big numbers within game.
Well, Frank, you've been absolutely electric today. You're going to be placing some big bets throughout the tourney run, right? We're just talking about the first round here. So how can people follow along on your journey?
So through my Instagram, the handle is @entrepreneurship. So if you don't know to spell it, just say it into Siri, and I guarantee that Siri will know how to.
Yeah, and we have it. We have it on our screen on our lower third.
Great.
We got you covered.
Perfect.
All right, so people can follow you there for all your picks.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm planning. I'm doing all my pregame picks or posting all my pregame picks, either prior to game time or just right after game time. Some of my live plays, but as you can imagine, I'm quick fire on those. But so to go into social, during all my and post all my live would be difficult. So, but yes, absolutely. If you follow my Instagram, you'll see a lot of my my pregame picks. In addition, I'll be posting my balance every so often, just because the journey is and I do this every single year. But the journey is at conference time, I made a $500,000 deposit, ran it, and I'm plus about $2 million right now. So the objective is to get to 4 by the end of the tourney.
That's a lot of zeros, man. All right, good stuff.
zeros.
Thank you. Yeah, we're going to talk to you in a little bit about the Final Four. Frank gave us his upset pick. It's going to be Colgate. Now let's look at the largest upsets by odds in DraftKings tournament history. It came in 2021 when number 15 Oral Roberts took down number 2 Ohio State plus 1,100 underdogs, and that came in the first round. All right. And speaking of dogs, you can find the Underdogs podcast on the Dan Le Batard and Friends Network. Here are the guys breaking down how to spot a good underdog in the tourney.
Yes, March Madness is here. I'm Tom Haberstroh, the co-host of the Underdogs podcast, along with my friends Jordan Brenner and Peter Keating. The podcast, which you can find on the Le Batard and Friends podcast network. We've done the math. We've crunched the numbers, and we'll give you the do's and the don'ts about how to spot a good underdog. First up, do look for teams that crash the boards. You need offensive rebounds. You need second chance opportunities. Clean the glass. Think Kenneth Faried and Morehead State from a few years ago.
But don't get focused on teams that shoot too conservatively. You want ones that are going to open it up and let the threes fly. 3 is greater than 2, and you need every extra point to beat a better team. Think of Davidson with a guy named Steph Curry.
Do find teams that press, trap, scheme for turnovers. Doing that not only gives them a chance to get out in transition and get extra buckets, but more fundamentally, it just generates extra possessions. Think of what Abilene Christian did last year, or VCU during its Final Four classic heyday. Go out there, a team should create some havoc. Or think of West Virginia, or should I say, press Virginia.
But don't fall in love with teams that play too fast. The more possessions there are in a game, the more the better team has a chance to win. It's the ultimate duh in sports. If, as Tom always says, if you're going to play Michael Jordan in one-on-one, you want to play him to 1, not 21. So look for teams that keep it slow, baby. Like Loyola Chicago. They've been pretty profitable in recent tournaments, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, you don't want to play Michael Jordan one-on-one, first of all. But lastly, do listen to our podcast, the Underdogs podcast, which you can find on the Le Batard and Friends podcast network. Go make yourself smarter. Go win your brackets. Go win your bets. And lastly, we have a show coming out very soon, breaking down the entire NCAA bracket.
Back here in the studio with Julian Edlow and Josh Applebaum, and we're joined virtually by Amal Shah from Vegas. So guys, we're looking at the full bracket now, finally, as Julian has said a couple times. Yeah. You've had a little time to collect your thoughts. Jules, any matchups stick out to you as potential first-round upsets here?
I mean, I think Frank might be onto something with Colgate, to be completely honest.
Okay.
I don't want to talk about it too much because we've hit on it, but Colgate they were a trendy pick last year, and they got a bad matchup against a really athletic and fast Arkansas team, and Wisconsin is not those things. They play slow in the Big Ten. Johnny Davis is spectacular, but we've seen with him off the floor, they're not nearly as good. So this is a veteran Colgate team back with kind of a better matchup this time around, and I think that they're going to make some noise. And then the other one that I brought up, Chattanooga over Illinois, going against the Big Ten again, just as we said we would. Chattanooga's really good. Another veteran team with talent. Both of these teams, 7.5, 8-point underdogs, that type of range, going up against 3-4 seeds in the Big Ten. The Big Ten needs to be on upset alert. I think these teams have some potential.
All right, Josh, which matchups do you have on your upset alert?
So I'll just throw a bunch at you. And Jesse, what's intriguing to me is the perception of what is an upset. So what is an upset? What is not an upset? You'll think like if the higher seeded team wins, it's an upset, when in reality, the betting market might have them favored. So you always see this. It's always my most favorite thing on Twitter. There'll be an upset and people will be like, no, they were -2. And the whole internet goes crazy. So I'll give you a couple. I'll go Memphis over Boise State. And again, these are just knee-jerk reactions right now. Let's see how the market moves. But the 9 favorite over the 8 with Memphis, the 10 10 over the 7, Loyola Chicago over Ohio State. Michigan, again, this seems to me Michigan's the first team or the earliest team getting so much money, starting from a pick against Colorado State.
Michigan is the one, by the way, that will fit your Twitter mold because they jumped from a pick to -3. So what happens when they win the 11 over 6? Is that an upset? Absolutely not. But keep going.
It's like Inception.
The numbers say
a dream within a dream. Inception. You don't know. You got to go back to reality. But Vatek +1 against Texas. That's a short number. Davidson a pick 'em against Michigan State. San Fran a pick against Murray State. These are the ones that I'm going to be looking at, Jesse.
All right, Amal, which ones are you looking at here?
You know, I think the one you guys hit upon here with that Michigan-Colorado State is really intriguing to me. You look at David Roddy, terrific player, but sometimes when you get these guys in mid-major conferences, they're not used to going up against a guy with the size of Hunter Dickinson, so that would be interesting. I thought Josh made a great point in terms of when you look at what we deem to be an upset compared to the general public. It's a completely skewed view. And this is going to be an interesting tournament. The other thing is keep an eye out on South Dakota State. I think Wilson is terrific. He's a guy a lot of people haven't seen play. This team is incredibly efficient in terms of shooting the three-point shot. It's going to be a lot of fun to see them play. And one other thing to remember is you have a lot of teams that have fifth-year and sixth-year seniors because of the COVID protocols from a year and a half ago. So you have a lot more experienced teams than you might have in the past. So sometimes you've got guys that are 18, 19 going up against 22, 23, 24-year-old guys. That helps immensely when you get into March in terms of how a team can pull an upset.
Yeah, Amal, for you, question. Beyond any first-round upsets, do you have any potential Cinderellas, like a dark horse you could see going deep and making a run here?
You know, Jesse, I haven't seen completely how the whole bracket lays out, but I would say this. You want a team that does one thing for me that's really crucial. They can knock down free throws, and they can defend the three-point shot. If you can do those two things, I think you got a great chance here in the tournament. I mentioned South Dakota State. I know you guys have talked at length about Colgate. I think this is an extremely dangerous team. A terrific matchup for them against Wisconsin. You guys referenced if Davis is off the floor. But, you know, Wisconsin reminds me a little bit of when we saw UMBC knock off Virginia a couple of years ago. They were so ripe for a pick-off of a one seed because of Virginia's style of play, and I think it kind of lends itself with Wisconsin at times how they can get bogged down. They're probably a higher scoring team than people perceive them to be, so I think Colgate's got an opportunity. That's definitely a team to keep an eye out for. In terms of a team making a really deep run, I'm not sure in terms of who I'd be looking at right now, but I think this is a wide open field. If you like somebody who's, say, a 9th overall team in this tournament at 10, 11, 12, UCLA, an experienced team coming in as a 4 seed in there with Purdue, Kentucky, and Baylor, I would not be surprised at all as a 4 seed if they get to the Final Four. They're good enough, experienced enough. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for some long shots in this tournament.
Josh, you agree kind of a wide open field here?
I do agree with them all. By the way, Amal, how you doing out there in Vegas? Hope you're holding it down for VSiN. Hope your guy Mike Palm's doing okay as well. But I agree with them all. And again, to me, I think it's obviously you're gonna have a lot of chalk 1 seeds. I was doing some research before our show today. Typically, the 1 seed doesn't win a lot, but I think the last 4 or 5 years, the 1 seed has won each time. So I think you're going to have a lot of love for these 1 seeds, which, again, we're looking at a lot based on, we want to win our bracket, but we're looking at, covering the spread. So if these 1 seeds get a ton of support, to me, I kind of want to bet against them a little bit. And again, trying to differentiate yourself, I'm looking at teams other than Gonzaga. If you look at the KenPom ratings, Arizona is right behind them. Also a team buying low like a Baylor. Baylor was really disappointing in their conference tournament, but the analytics really like them. So these are the kind of just, thoughts just thrown at you right now, Jesse.
Yeah, Jules, dark horse maybe? Anybody like really jumping out to you?
Yeah, I mean, so for dark horses, we have to also find, brackets that we don't like the chalk, I guess, is the way that you would say it. So if you want to go against Gonzaga in that bracket, obviously you're going against it. But I think that the most open bracket is probably the Midwest where Kansas is. That's the easiest one to find a dark horse. So I'm doing that not by finding a team in the field that I like that I think can make a run, because I don't want to run into Gonzaga, Arizona, or Kentucky in those other corners of the bracket. So this is the one, Kansas was a team I was kind of ready to fade. 2 seed Auburn was a team I was kind of ready to fade. Now they find themselves in the same bracket, and that's the one where we're talking about Colgate. Wisconsin is the 3 there. I think and Providence wound up getting the 4, and they're near Pick'em in the first round. So, I think the Midwest is by far the most open bracket. So if you're going to look at a long shot, you got Iowa as a 5 seed, I know that the 12-5 is a popular upset, but they're 10-point favorites over Richmond. They're probably going to get out of there. You've got LSU. They just moved on from their coach. Nobody's going to be talking about them. They're a 6 seed there. They could go to the Sweet 16 and play against an Auburn team that they're not going to be afraid of. So I'm looking at teams like LSU and Iowa maybe to come out of that Midwest because I'm not as afraid of the top seeds.
All right, good stuff, guys. Thank you. Now we're going to switch gears and hear from Kate Fagan and Jessica Smetana, who have their own podcast on the Dan Le Batard and Friends Network. Here they are previewing the women's bracket, which is going to be revealed later tonight.
This is Off the Looking Glass. I'm Kate Fagan.
I'm Jessica Smetana.
And it's a special drop. It's like an alert drop. Maybe like a sneaker drop. Yeah.
Oh, but then no one's going to get it.
Everybody's going to take an L on this one.
I don't think that's what we want to do.
No. But welcome to a special edition, a March Madness edition of Off the Looking Glass.
Oh, you mean it's not an NCAA tournament version of Off the Looking Glass?
It's the NCAA women's tournament version. No. We can do it. We can do it, Jess. We can put the trademark on it this year. We can do it.
This is very exciting. Yes, as you just referenced, this is the first year that the women's NCAA tournament can be called March Madness, even though when the March Madness trademark was filed, it was filed for both the men's and the women's tournament. But until now, it has never been used as a marketing tool for the women's tournament.
My favorite part about this story, and most fans will remember that last year, the impetus for this big change of being able to use March Madness was the viral stories that went on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok of the disparities. Let's just call them disparities because it was like an SNL skit. I mean, we could have created it on Off the Looking Glass, honestly.
I'm a little upset that they beat us to the punch because then all of our subsequent jokes kind of like we're being a little too literal when this is what's happening in real life with what we saw with the weight rooms last year at the women's tournament versus the men's tournament.
My second favorite thing about the women now being quote unquote allowed to use March Madness, like you alluded to, is that all the NCAA had to do within, like you said, was quote unquote assign the March Madness trademark to the women's side. Like it was there all along. They basically had to click and drag over to the women's tournament. Like we need to go our top pick, who we think is going to win this tournament, and then our dark horse for people who might be like putting a couple bucks on the women's tournament because they think it's a safe place to be. Where are you at with this?
I think my top pick is still South Carolina, even though they had a big upset in the SEC tournament last weekend. My dark horse pick? That's a really good question, Kate, because there's a lot of really good teams. I wouldn't call Iowa a dark horse, even though they have lost some pretty big games this season, but that would be kind of cool for them to win a tournament. They haven't done that yet. South Carolina has, so maybe they're my dark horse, even though they're also a favorite.
Stanford is my pick to win the tournament. I mean, Haley Jones, they're coming off of the win last year. There's a lot in the history of Stanford. There's a lot of like almost Red Sox bad juju where you almost felt they were cursed for a while. They won a few in the late 90s, and then they had great players and they just couldn't win again. But they won last year, and I think they're going back to back. And my dark horse pick, and I mean this is going to be the team that beat South Carolina in the SEC title game is my dark horse pick, Kentucky.
That's a good pick. And I thought about that for a split second, but then I was like, I can't pick two SEC teams. They are the hottest team right now coming into this tournament.
Yeah, they've won, 10 games in a row, and they've got Kyra Elzy, who knows a little something about winning because she played for Pat Summitt at the Lady Vols, another favorite of this show. So they've got that, they've got the momentum for March Madness, which I think is something that they need.
M. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we've been talking all about the first round of the tournament, but we do have odds for the Final Four. So let's head back out to Vegas with Amal Shaw and Johnny Avello for the latest and for you guys to break it down.
Thanks, Jesse. Johnny, obviously the table has been set now. We know what to expect. In terms of the Final Four odds, what are we looking at? I would have to assume Gonzaga and Arizona have to be the two clear-cut favorites in terms of making it to a Final Four.
Good job, Amal. Zags minus 140, Zona plus a dime. And then it's followed by, Kansas plus $1.80.
Okay.
I think they were a little higher. We took. One thing I want to mention to you, Amal, was that remember the guy that I mentioned the Kansas bet?
Yeah.
Where the guy bet 50,000.
Yeah.
Well, he comes back with at Kansas plus 260, for $50K to make the Final Four. That's what I like a better to do. He just followed right up with the team, not only to win it all, but come back and win the final.
When you look at that Kansas bracket, though, I think it shakes out fairly well for them. I was surprised they got as good of a draw as they potentially did. This is a pretty interesting bet. We'll see how this team's able to do. In terms of cutting down the Nets, Gonzaga, where are they sitting at right now to win the national championship? Probably about 3-1 at this point in time?
Yeah, a little higher than 3.
Yeah.
They've been taking money all year. They took money all last year, too. Didn't get there. I thought the team last year was a little bit stronger, but obviously, maybe against this field this year, maybe they're in a little better shape.
I tend to agree with you. I thought that team last year was a complete team, but Baylor surprised a lot of people, including myself. What's the biggest thing, maybe from an outside standpoint, at a team that maybe people are not talking about, you consider to be a potential Final Four team? I'm not talking about a 15 seed or something like that, but realistically, maybe a 3 seed, a 4 or 5, somewhere in there that you see.
Well, if you notice the way Tennessee played down the stretch in the tournament, first of all, they ended the regular season 4 straight wins. They played excellent at home. They seem to be having that momentum. They almost won the SEC. Probably another game they win it.
Right.
And now they go into the tournament, play lights out. I think they're dangerous.
Yeah, you mentioned it with that team. Fulkerson and Chandler have been terrific for them down the stretch. Rick Barnes, a terrific coach, something to pay attention to. I'll tell you, Johnny, a team to me that I think maybe got a little bit overlooked when you look at it is UCLA. 2 losses this year during the regular season and conference tournament against an Arizona team that's a 1 seed. I think with the experience and the individual talent and how far they got last year, within an incredible shot by Jalen Suggs of getting to a national title game, I think this could be a dark horse team as a 4 seed potentially based on being in there with Baylor and Purdue and I think Kentucky as well.
Yeah, they had a magical season last year, and Mick did a great job with him, and he shows the kind of coach he is. Coach Swell of Cincinnati goes to USLA, makes them a contender now 2 years in a row. They have the players to get the job done. Amal, it's all about your momentum through the tournament. It's about winning close games. There's going to be a couple buzzer beaters. You want to be on the right side of those.
I think you bring up a great point. Couple of schools. My alma mater, Ohio State, struggling coming into this tournament. LSU fires Will Wade. I think these are 2 teams you could see potentially people betting against simply because of the way the dominoes fell for them over the last 7 or 8 games.
Yeah, Ohio State, we did take a bet against them. The LSU game, no action whatsoever on it.
It'd be something to pay attention to as you go forward. And there's some good opportunities. You don't have to just bet the team to win the national title. We talked about it earlier, Jesse, in terms of making it to the Final Four. So a good option there as well if you think a region shakes out very well. We saw one better. Love Kansas. Took them at 14-1 to win the national title, but also took them to make the Final Four. So there you've got to win 4 games instead of the 6. So something to pay attention to as you go forward if you're looking at betting a region and which team's going to win that. I want to ask you real quickly before we go. I know there's Tom Brady news, and you guys will have time to address that tomorrow. Hopefully Coach K doesn't decide to unretire. But the reality of this Duke team's going to get a lot of pub. They're in a region with Gonzaga. Beat Gonzaga earlier this year here in Las Vegas. Now they could potentially meet in a regional final, which would be tremendous.
They've had a really good season win-loss-wise. I'm not sure that Duke look is there, but we'll find out because K wants to put it together for the last hurrah.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. When did you think of an ACC tournament champion being an 11 seed, Jesse, in terms of Virginia Tech, and that's where they're at. And so it's something to pay attention to as you look at some of these conferences. May not be as good as we've seen in years past. The ACC, definitely one of those conferences, Johnny.
Definitely. Yeah. One of the better ones, well as the SEC, well as the Big Ten. 3 very strong conferences with a lot of good teams.
Absolutely. That's going to do it for us here. Back to Jesse in Boston.
All right, thank you, Amal. Thank you, Johnny. Now let's bring in DraftKings customer and sports bettor Frank Cravello. Frank, initial thoughts on the Final Four odds, man. What are you thinking?
Tom Brady. He's going to win everything. Oh, wait. Oh,
wrong sport. Come on. I know he's
bad.
stealing the Selection Sunday thunder.
In the West, I think it's a no-brainer. Gonzaga. Duke. Obviously, they're a tough team that's in there, but I think they get upset in the. I think they're going to get upset by Davidson. To be honest, out in the East, Kentucky, I think Baylor has started to fade over the course of the season. They started out I think 13-0 if I remember correctly, and in that last 16 games or 19 games they're 13-6. Which is Kentucky. They've looked strong. They've looked strong the entire year. The SEC tournament, they laid an egg against Tennessee. I know that for a fact because I bet on Kentucky yesterday. But I think they come out of the East. Arizona out south. they're phenomenal. They're head and shoulders above everybody, I believe, out there. They looked phenomenal against UCLA, so I see them getting through in the South. And then the Midwest, I know that there's a better that bet 50,000 at 14-1 on Kansas. Unfortunately, I absolutely disagree with that bet. I think Auburn comes out of the Midwest. I think they have arguably the best player in college right now, Jabari Smith. So I think he's going to come out firing this NCAA tournament. He'll become a household name, and he'll get his team to the Final Four.
All right, Frank, you've been so gracious to join us today. Before we let you go, one final question. Do you have a team you're going to bet to win it all?
I'm betting on myself. Remember, I'm trying to get to $4 million. So, no, just kidding. Gonzaga, I don't see them losing. They have Chet Holmgren. He's the number one pick or number one draft prospect today. He's phenomenal, but he's standing side by side with Drew Timme. So they have 2 7-footers out there at Gonzaga, great guards. I don't see who beats them. Even they've lost 3 times this year, but they're going to come to play. So if I'm putting money on one particular team, it's Gonzaga this year.
All right, amazing stuff, Frank. Thank you so much for joining us. We've loved having you on the show. Everyone's going to make sure to follow you. We're going to get your picks as the tournament continues, and good luck to you.
Great. Thank you, guys.
All right, back here in the studio with DraftKings contributor Julian Edlow, VSiN's Josh Applebaum. Guys, initial thoughts on the Final Four odds, Jules. What do you think? You got Gonzaga minus 140, Arizona plus 110, Kentucky plus 160, Kansas plus 180. So, and Baylor not coming in until 5 at plus 200. So what do we think?
Yeah, I do think it sets up really well for Gonzaga, laying the minus 140 there. I think Frank's onto something there. Not that we're reinventing the wheel, saying Gonzaga is going to the Final Four here, but I do think they can lose to somebody. I think they are going to lose in the Final Four, but I think that their path there is very good. Arizona on the other side, I talked about it. Arizona, I'm just looking at the board right now. I don't know who's going to beat them in that field. So Arizona at plus 110 might be my favorite Final Four bet now that we've seen the field, laid out in front of us. And then that open one where Kansas is, I know Frank just kind of talked about Auburn in there at plus 350. Not a bad price for a 2 seed. But I'll look even deeper. Like I said, you got Iowa there at plus 550, and even further down, LSU plus 1,800. That's the bracket to go for a long shot. In my opinion, and then out of the East, where you do have Baylor, I'll have that Elite Eight matchup as a UCLA Kentucky matchup. I'll take Kentucky going to the Final Four out of there.
Yeah, Josh, initial thoughts. You got the top of the board, but maybe some of these deeper odds that are standing out to you?
Yeah, so I think the first important thing is, we're programmed to just bet the individual games or fill out your bracket. But remember, as bettors, there are different ways you can bet. There's a whole prop market available to you. There are different, props in terms of, again, the one we just got, who will make the Final Four. So, Jesse, you mentioned this, but this is really important to me. The odds makers are telling you something about Kentucky here. Kentucky's only a 2 seed, yet they have the 3rd best odds to cut down the nets. I think reading between the lines, that really tells you that if you want to, take not a long shot because they're a 2 seed, but if you don't want to go, Gonzaga, Arizona, which I would assume, 95% of America will have one of the two as a champion, a vast majority Gonzaga. But Kentucky having a better odds to go to the Final Four than Kansas, who's a 1 seed, than Baylor, who's a 1 seed. To me, and again, Ken Palm, I believe, has Kentucky the 3rd best team in the country. That's a futures price that it really tells you how strong this Kentucky team is. Again, why does the 2 seed have better odds than a couple 1 seeds? I think the Wildcats are a team to look out for.
Josh, just your thought here. Someone who's going to win it all. You have to make your pick. I know it's tough, but just who would you go with?
So I think Gonzaga is maybe going to win it all, probably going to win it all. I just, as a contrarian, I can't do it. It's like one of these things that I can't do.
Yourself.
Jesse, I walk into a bar, everyone's rooting for Gonzaga. I can't be another one rooting for Gonzaga.
Guy.
I can't be. So I'll go Arizona. I think a lot of stuff that Julian said is totally right. The analytics really love that team. Plus 110, again, you're getting a little plus money to make the Final Four, to win it all. That would be a heck of a matchup there. So I'll go Arizona here.
Julian, you rolling with Zona?
Kind of. I'm going to give you my national championship game. I think it's going to be Kentucky and Arizona. Okay. I'm going to take Kentucky coming off of their side and Arizona coming off of theirs. This is a cop-out. If they play the game, if Kentucky can get all the way through it, I think Kentucky wins the game. Who am I more confident is going to be there? I'm more confident Arizona is going to be there. So those are the 2 teams that I think you're getting the most value on. If they play the game, I can't wait. Give me Kentucky, but Arizona's got a great path to get there.
All right, thank you guys. Now let's head back out to Austin, where we're actually hearing from the man who everything is named after, the one and only Dan Le Batard, with some of his friends in Austin, Texas at South by Southwest.
Thank you. I am sitting right next to Dan Le Batard, the man that has his name named after everything, according to the person who just threw it to me from Boston. I don't know what that meant. I also totally disagree with whoever said Arizona has got an easy run and is going to the Final Four and winning a national championship. They are not. Whoever said that is not familiar with Arizona's work on this front, okay? But anyway, we digress here from South by Southwest. Dan Le Batard is next to me, and I think we are going to reveal our number 1 seeds, all 4 of them, for our NCAA tournament, but I feel like we should be talking about Tom Brady.
Yeah, we should be a nimble organization that reacts to the news and tells you about Tom Brady returning from retirement. He's going back to the Tampa Bay Bucks. But the reason that DraftKings gave us the amount of money that they did, a lot of people have been asking, like, why would they waste it on this stuff? It's for this moment right here, and not even Tom Brady can get in the way of it. I understand that he's kind of wrecked March Madness, but our March Sadness tournament has, over the years, grown a great deal in popularity, and most recently, the way that we do it is we do a looks-like tournament. We take 4 people in sports, and we make them the number 1 seeds in a tournament that has 68 looks like in them. We take someone in sports and we tell you what they look like. It's not that hard to explain, but perhaps we will explain it better by simply playing for you our 4 seeds. This is what DraftKings paid for. After this, we can all go our separate ways because this is the most valuable treasure chest of a commodity. These 4 seeds that have been embargoed until this very moment. So, a number 1 seed in the East region is...
Mike Greenberg looks like he never misses an opportunity to clap during the Friends theme song.
That is a 1 seed in the East.
They're going to be tough to beat, man.
That's right. They're going to be tough to beat, but perhaps the 1 seed in the North will end up winning.
Jimmy Johnson looks like a satirical French magazine's cartoon drawing of an American.
That should be the number 1 overall seed. Cherubic
Really?
face, yes.
You're making that Baylor?
Red. I'm telling you that that's as good as there is. Give me, please, what we will find out west.
Clint Hurdle looks like a piece of gum that was chewed by Clint Hurdle.
That should be the number 1 overall seed.
Jimmy
That is a
Johnson.
Titan.
And finally, it is a Titan. But finally, and this is the conclusion of what it is that DraftKings paid for. I hope it's been worth it for DraftKings to get these 4 treasures that no one else can have. You're getting them here exclusively. The last remaining 1 seed in our Looks Like tournament is...
Matt Patricia looks like the guy who has his high school football number tattooed on his calf.
Wow.
That's good, right?
Wow.
It's strictly accuracy. That is strong. You want to give them all your opinions on Tom Brady? You want to give it to him? All of them.
Well, I mean, I'm not surprised that he came back because I've been telling you for months that he was coming back, and now he's back and he's playing for Tampa. I think eventually he'll end up in San Francisco because that's where he wants to be. I don't know if they have the 5 number 1 draft picks that Bruce Arians wants. In fact, I'm certain they don't. But I think he ends up in San Francisco. He doesn't play for the Bucs anymore.
You're not hearing that anywhere else.
Ever.
The reason you're not hearing it anywhere else is because it's ridiculous.
Coming from the guy who thought Tom Brady was going to retire and thought his career was over 9 years ago.
Well, that's true.
Ridiculous.
That's true. That's true.
And what has he done since? Put together another Hall of Fame career. He has 2, and now he's working on his 3rd. And it will be in San Francisco. Let's go back to Boston.
That was incredible. Excellent work as always, gentlemen. Amazing stuff. Here's a look at the last 2 teams that were favored at the start of the tournament. We're talking favorites here. Last year, Gonzaga had the best odds at plus 205 to win, and they made it all the way to the final where they lost to Baylor. Then back in 2019, Duke was the favorite at plus 270, but they got knocked out in the Elite 8 by Michigan State. So being the favorite obviously doesn't always end in raising the trophy. For one last segment of the night, I'm joined by DraftKings contributor Julian Edlow, VSiN's Josh Applebaum. What a night, guys. I mean, so far, what can even be said? So much can be said. The favorite, Gonzaga. Josh, you already kind of touched on this before. Like, they might win it all, but you just can't stand by them.
Yeah, I really can. And again, this is when you're trying to fill out your bracket, you want to differentiate yourself from the pack, from the crowd. Because anytime, I think Warren Buffett mentioned this when he does investing, once the crowd picks up on something loses its value here. So again, I think if you're a guy like me who just wants to kind of be a little bit different, and again, if the public wins and Gonzaga wins, then, everyone ties whatever the pool or whatever the payout is. You need to differentiate yourself. So that's why I am looking at Arizona. And one quick comment, guys, we are getting some totals on the first 4 play-in games. The Texas A&M and Corpus Christi and the Texas Southern, 135.5. Indiana, Wyoming, 133. Notre Dame, Rutgers, 132. Bryant and Wright State, 153. I mentioned this earlier, but the first 4, these play-in games, the under really, really crushes. No guarantee that it'll continue, but over the last decade, first 4 unders are 23-13, 64%. If you want to bet some of these first 4 unders, I would bet them right now because I expect them to fall.
Yeah, Jules, thoughts on those really quick?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It's kind of I guess, a shorter turnaround. Your season just, well, not for many of them because they're not playing too deep into their conference tournaments, but their seasons ended towards the end of the week. Now you got to go into Dayton earlier in the week and play these games, weird neutral court games, as the NCAA tournament is. But the difference here is that rather than, some of these jumbled up ones where we do have closer to pick'em games, there's larger talent discrepancies in the tournament. These teams were the ones that were on the block. These are the teams, they're in the play-in round for a reason. So a little more desperate, a little bit tighter of a game. Not as much to do with the numbers, but the reasoning, both, Josh gave you the analytics behind it, but the reasoning of why these games would be a little tighter, a little low scoring, the narrative fits as well. So I think it all kind of ties in together.
Something interesting here. You said you like Arizona. They're plus 650. Kentucky plus 800. They have the 3rd best odds to win it all. Like, what do you make of that, Jules?
I think it's good value. I really do. And them being, like Josh said, them being 3rd on the board is telling. This is a 2 seed. There are 2 other 1 seeds out there below them in the odds, as well as all the other 2 seeds below Kentucky. They have 4 really good guards and the National Player of the Year who led the team in scoring and rebounding. They have what it takes to do this. They have a tougher path on their side. They are on. They would have a Final 4 game against Gonzaga, right, if they can get through. So they have a tough path, and I think that's my only cause for concern. But from a talent perspective, yeah, I'm going to buy in. So like I said, Arizona probably an easier path to get there from their side, but Kentucky the more talented team. So the number's there for a reason.
All right. Now that you've seen the full bracket, let's lock in your favorite first-round bets. Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, so I'll go back to some of these we looked at. I mean,
yeah.
How do you not go Michigan here? Just because, again, your perception of a team, I think, is equalized by what the line is and then how it moves. The fact that Michigan, was a pick-em play pretty much at the beginning against Colorado State. They're the 11, Colorado State's the 6. And I'm looking at all these numbers, guys. Michigan's the biggest move of any team on the board right now, going from a pick-em to -3. Now, here's the other thing. If you don't get a team early, I would wait it out, let these numbers kind of, let the public get down a little bit more, look for some maybe reverse line moves later. If the dog, at some point, if Colorado State gets like 3 or 4, I don't think it will. But if you miss the early number, you're better off not playing a bad number and just waiting to maybe take the dog at an inflated price.
All right, what do you think, Julian? When you're looking at this first round bets you want to lock in, you've seen the full bracket.
Yeah, let me first say, talking about line movement, we have a contender with Michigan because Davidson opened that short favorite, right, against Michigan State. And off the top, we said, what about people betting on Izzo in March and Michigan State? And that's exactly what they're doing. Davidson's up to a 2-point dog now against Michigan State. So that brings in, we can talk about this next, but that brings in is it even a fishy line anymore? It was fishy for about an hour, and now it's gone. Do we still want Davidson? I do, with the points or plus money. But for a best bet, Ohio State was the team, and again, you don't want to go with too much preconceived notion, but Ohio State was the team that I came into this and said, I want to fade them, and I think they got a matchup that is not going to work out in their favor with Loyola Chicago. So Loyola Chicago, the way that they play, laying the 2 points with them, the -130 on the money line. Ohio State is really limping into this tournament, and they looked awful down the stretch in the Big Ten, a conference that I'm not confident in to begin with. I think that the Ramblers are going to get this game. That's probably my favorite bet just on first glance.
Josh, some fishy lines to keep an eye on here?
Yeah, so we'll just keep running it back here, Jesse. We obviously talked the Michigan one, a couple more here. Virginia Tech, to me, is in a good spot. They really impressed there to win their ACC tournament. Texas was kind of down at the stretch there. That 11 is only +1 against the number 6. Davidson, we mentioned them. San Fran, I keep going back to that spot. Memphis as well. Memphis was a team, you kind of, get not blown out, but you didn't keep it too close today against Houston. They're -1.5 against the 8 seed Boise. So again, these are the little ones that I'm going to look at. And again, if you're not early, if you're late to the party, you're better off not playing a bad number. So again, I think we all have the excitement of March Madness. We want to get our bets in right now. But again, favorites early, dogs late. And I would look for the biggest discrepancies. Like if right now a dog is +2 and then before the tournament comes, they get up to +6, I'll buy low on all those really big inflated line moves.
Yeah, actually, really quick before I get your take, Julian, how important is it, Josh, just for bettors to keep an eye on live in-game betting as this tournament rolls on?
Oh, it's so huge. I mean, if you're not using a live odds page, and at VSiN we have thankfully, working with DraftKings now, we were able to post your numbers, so I'd really, reference a lot of the stats that you look at. Also, bet versus dollar discrepancies. Haven't really hit on this a lot, but I'm a big fan of looking for percentage of bets and percentage of money. And if a team's only getting 30% of bets, but 60% of money, or a big discrepancy in that regard, and then you see the line go toward that team, that's what really gets me excited. So wait on that. The ticket count's really low right now. Let's let the bets build up. Let's look for those discrepancy plays.
Yeah, Jules, what do you think?
Yeah, for sure. And that's why, I tweet out the betting splits from DraftKings as we get them, usually once to twice a day. And there's a reason, if I don't get them out, if it's a Saturday noon tips and I haven't gotten them out by 11:30 a.m., people that follow me on Twitter will let me know. So there's a reason people want those. They want to see where those discrepancies are, where the big money is, where pros are betting, and that can be helpful. I don't want to put too much stock in it because, like we said, let's talk about a South Dakota State that we're all looking for. Hey, plus the points against Providence. Providence is lucky. It's going to be 5, 5.5, 6, and it opens 2. That's telling as well. So we don't want to buy too much into it. You can go there will be times I'll say that I'll throw that information out and go against it. You don't want to make it everything, but you definitely want to use it to your advantage.
Yeah, kind of keeping in that same vein, for people who might be watching, what's your overall strategy just when it comes to betting the bracket, Josh?
So my overall strategy is, number one, building your bracket from the inside out. I think a lot of people look at the corners and the edges, and the first thing you do when you get a bracket is let's go on each side and fill out each one. But remember, those early round matchups, you're getting a low amount of points if you win those. And the people who lead after the first weekend typically don't win the whole thing. So I would actually start with the winner first. It's more important that you get your winner right because you get the more points each round based on getting deeper into the final. So whether you like Gonzaga, whether you like Arizona, whoever you like, I'd start with your winner first and go out the other way. I know I blew your mind right there, Jesse.
I mean,
God. What's going on?
I've been doing this wrong.
I'll react to that. I agree with Josh in some senses. You want to get your big point plays right when you're building a bracket for sure, but the path is also really important to me. So I don't want to I don't want to put a team there and then look at their path and say, well, that's really, really difficult. So if Josh puts it that way, I'm going to have Kentucky winning it all in my bracket because that's the team that I believe in the most. But like I said, when I look at the path, I kind of believe in Arizona being there the most. So I may have a Kentucky-Arizona final where I kind of think more highly of Kentucky, but I might have Arizona there because of the path. So I agree. You definitely want to go with your bigger plays and build it that way, but you want to make sure that you kind of loop back to the outside and make sure that the path from the outside to the inside, if that all makes sense, is there.
All right, well...
it's like the Matrix.
You just inceptioned my brain.
Yeah.
We would be remiss, though, if we didn't at least mention the fact that while we were doing this show, Tom Brady unretired. I'm sorry, we have to talk about it really quick. Shocked, Josh?
So I'm not shocked, and I'll be honest with you. I'm born and raised diehard New Englander. Brady's the greatest. He's the GOAT. But Brady, you're annoying me a ton recently. On selection, first off, as a New Englander, you leave us out of your thank you letter. I get that. Some people say I already thanked them. Then you do this during Selection Sunday. Brady apparently hanging out with Giselle and the kids got old real fast, and he's got to come back.
Wow.
And I would say if there are any books hanging futures prices, to win the division, to win the NFC, if you can still find a book that hasn't moved too much, that's a pretty good number to back the TB12.
Julian, didn't you already lock in some...
I might have some Tampa futures, but
okay.
I don't know. How do you not even last this long? This isn't Brett Favre. This isn't. Why do it in the first place? you wouldn't have had to do anything by now if you just never said anything. And
a lot of fanfare from
here
just
we are.
2 months ago.
Yeah, I don't know. Welcome back, I guess.
Welcome back, question mark?
Yeah. It's going to be a very interesting, and the NFC South was wide open. Like, is Deshaun Watson maybe going to head there? Who knows? But, this went from a very open division to one that Tampa should easily win again, unless a quarterback, if Watson goes to the Saints or Panthers, I don't know. But it's
Bucks plus 750 to win the Super Bowl.
Is that what it currently
Julian's
is?
like,
okay. No, that's fair. That's what it should be. That's what it should be.
All right, good stuff, guys. Tell everybody where they can follow you. Josh on Twitter.
At Josh_insights.
Julian.
At Julian Edlow. We keep it simple. You guys already follow for all those splits anyway.
Keep it very simple. Make sure that you follow those guys. You can follow along as they bet the tournament as we go down. That's all the time we have for the day. What a wild selection Sunday. Thank you for tuning into Line Drop, the bracket presented by KFC. So many great guests. Thank you to everyone at VSiN, the whole Dan Batard and Friends crew, our in-studio analysts. I'm Jessie Coffield. Thank you for watching. We had so much fun with you.